Hey Toy fans, D21 Beast here. Just wanted to let you guys know before you watch this video of Project Geek Week, we are not up to our A game yet. I, of course, moved in June and moved away from the guys and where we used to do the show. We had a pretty nice setup going, I think, by the time we did our 15th episode. But as it is now, we just really wanted to get a show put together, so we were experimenting tonight with recording over Skype and using just kind of like online communication to be able to get a show put together. And I think we had some great discussions. The show didn't come together quite the way I really kind of wanted it to, and we're all kind of bummed about it, but I still wanted to be able to share the show with you guys. So as you watch it here, we're not going to have all the fancy graphics that you may be used to seeing on Project Geek Week. Mostly just consider this an audio podcast that's been put up to YouTube for you guys to listen to. Next time, we're going to try to make sure we get all the details worked out. Hopefully I have a better show for you, and I'll try to do better with the graphics so that as we're talking about stuff, you'll be able to actually have a visual aid to kind of accompany you. But given the kind of frustration we've dealt with this show and the fact that we kind of put it together last minute, we just wanted to see if we could do another one for you guys. The show is basically just going to be an audio podcast on YouTube. That's the best way to describe it. So bear with us, guys. There's going to be some ups and downs in the audio too. It's not as clean as we'd like it to be, but again, we're working on that. Hopefully next time we do a show for you guys, it's going to be a lot better. But I do hope you guys enjoyed the conversation we did have. Feel free to let us know in the comments what you thought. So hopefully you guys like the return of Project Geek Week. It's been 3 months, so I'm really glad that we're able to at least start the show again. And thanks for sticking with us, guys. Hey Toy fans, welcome back to Project Geek Week. Now, you guys are probably looking at this video and wondering, where are the guys? Well, we're still here, but we're just getting adjusted to some technical changes, I guess. After my move, we can't all get together in the same room like we used to, but we wanted to keep the show going. And I know we've been gone since, what was it now, July? Was that our last show?
Yeah, sounds right.
Yeah. So, it's been a little while, but let me go ahead and say, I'm Robert, D21 Beast. You may know me from my YouTube channel where I do reviews. But with me today, I've got Greg.
Hey.
Hey. And I've also got Jeff.
Hey, how's it going?
And you guys may remember Jeff. He appeared in our last episode where we talked about Beast Wars, among other things. He's a frequent contributor to my channel, so definitely got his nerd cred there. We're glad that he's, I think, going to be a regular of our show. What do you say, Jeff?
Oh, sure.
All right. So excited. So.
Good.
We obviously missed a lot over this summer, guys. All sorts of movies came out, notably Ant-Man came out. We aren't going to be able to talk about everything that happened while we were on hiatus, so we just figured we'd go ahead and jump into what some of the more current stuff is. If you guys want to hear our opinions on anything that we did miss over the summer, definitely let us know. We'll be glad to touch on that in a future show. But the first thing I think we want to talk about is the animated series, or web series rather, Vixen. It's a Greg Berlanti produced animated series, part of the DC television universe. And Vixen is a character who has existed in DC Comics for a while. I'm not sure what her exact origins are. I'm more of a Marvel guy. But she's had ties to the Justice League. And she's a character who has a totem that gives her special animal powers. So there is a 5, or is it 6-part, Greg? 5 or 6 parts?
It's 6 parts, only 5 of them are out so far.
Okay, so there's only 5 out right now, but you guys can catch us on the CW Seed. Each episode's about 5 to 6 minutes long, and you'll have about half that length in ads to watch before you can actually see the episodes, but it's pretty good. You should definitely check it out. I guess, Greg, as the resident DC television aficionado, why don't you go ahead and let us know what happened on this show and what your thoughts are?
Sure, so for just a quick gloss over her history, the character's name is Mari McCabe, and she's initially from Africa. She lived in a village called Zambesi, which got massacred, and my understanding is in the comics, it's revealed later that it was her uncle who committed the massacre, but they changed that a little bit in the show. So we catch up with Mari in, what was it, New York or whatever the DC city is.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so we find her being chased by Arrow and Flash.
In fact, we know she's not in Central City because they make a point of that in the show.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, she was in Detroit at the time.
That's right, yeah.
Oh, okay, there you go. So yeah, she's being chased by Arrow and Flash. At the beginning of the first episode, I think that doesn't pick up again until episode 2, though. And basically, we kind of learn in the first episode a little bit about her origin. She discovers that she's known she's had this totem for a while, but she doesn't discover that it has these powers it can give her until the start of the series, I guess. And Arrow and Flash, I can't remember. Do you guys remember how exactly they heard about her? Because they basically go to track her down.
Yeah, I can't honestly remember either. Well, no. Cisco, didn't he discover her?
Ah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we actually got a little bit with Cisco and Felicity
Yeah, and I thought the Felicity part especially was great.
Yeah, there was a little joke about the fern, which I didn't know this, but on Emergency Awesome he told everybody that there's like a running gag where this fern showed up in the Arrow Cave, and it like wilts and grows with the Oliver Felicity relationship. So that was a reference to that. Apparently, like on the show, she made some comment about how she's been watering the fern. She's being chased by Arrow and Flash, and she kind of, in the heat of the moment, discovers that she can manifest these abilities from the totem, and it kind of scares her. So she goes to this professor friend of hers, and she's asking about it, and he tells her about the god Anansi, which I think was like the protector of her village, and how this totem is related to his abilities. But at the end, someone shows up and takes her captive. We learn in the next episode that it's actually her sister, and that in the history of their village, basically their village got massacred, and the sister was actually awarded the totem first, or at least that's what she says. But the mother runs off with the totem and Mari, leaving the sister behind in the village, so she's pretty upset about this. And she thinks the totem is rightfully hers, so she kidnaps Mari with the intention of taking the totem from her. Mari gets away, but then the sister catches up, and at the end of episode 5, she takes the totem from Mari's neck, and that's where we leave it. So episode 6, I guess, is going to be more confrontation between Mari and her sister.
There is I think it's like a minute-long preview for episode 6 or something they have up on this side. It doesn't really show you a whole lot, but there's something up. So.
Excellent.
Interesting. I missed that.
So yeah, sorry. As far as the show, like, I'm really impressed with the animation. I think it's very good. And I mean, it has a kind of anime style to it, but it's also its own.
It does, yeah.
And I do like we've talked about this a little bit, but if anything, my only complaint really is that the episodes are too short.
Yeah, agreed. Totally agreed.
So hopefully in the future we'll see more of it, because so far I'm really enjoying it.
See, I kind of had the opposite reaction. I'm liking it. Like, it seems like they can cram a lot into it. I mean, it honestly could be just because I binge watched it, but
yeah.
I was kind of surprised at how much they could actually cram into 5 minutes. Like, you actually, each one you get a decent amount of progression.
Yeah, so I hope, like, because I think the 6th is just going to be the last one for now, and there's been some talks about whether the actress, and I can't remember her name, is going to appear in Arrow or Flash with like a crossover episode, but that's kind of speculative right now. I think CW kind of threw this show out there. They didn't know if it would be a hit. I hope it's doing well, because I'd love to see her in future crossovers. Plus, they cast an actress who has a look like she could definitely show up in the live-action shows.
I was wondering about that.
Yep.
Okay, well then another thing too about live action is I think animation suits this show when it comes to Vixen using her powers. And I was wondering if that was something that would maybe be limited on a television show budget, having these giant CG creatures suddenly appear around her.
Yeah, definitely. I would think so. Especially with what happened in episode 5, where, the rhino showed up and there was this very animated sequence where, yeah, I mean, it would be much harder to do that in live action.
And this could be a nitpick. Again, I'm not very familiar with Vixen, but it makes sense for me that when she has the rhino power, she charges as invulnerable. When she leaps like a tiger, she's got the tiger. But when she gets the bird ability, shouldn't she be flapping her wings?
Maybe they just thought that would look silly. I don't know.
Maybe.
I had a similar thought with Flash, because she's essentially running the speed of a cheetah. I always assumed he was a little quicker than that, but he's having a really hard time getting hold of her.
Yeah.
He runs faster than lightning in a season 1 episode.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I was wondering about that too. So overall, then your opinion of the show is that you do like where it is and you want to see more of it.
Oh yeah, there was one other thing that struck me as a little bit odd, and maybe I missed something in the episode, but in episode 5, the sister shows up and she asks for the totem, and Mari immediately, she tries to take it off because she doesn't want it. But then when they show up in Africa, like she wasn't able to take it off. Like the totem had bonded to her or something.
Right.
But then at the end of episode 5, the sister just walks up and takes the totem.
It was something with a spider bite.
Oh, did she actually get bit?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that she actually got bit.
Yeah, it's very subtle. There's you can hear the audio cue of the bite.
I see.
But they don't actually show it.
Okay.
I wonder if that's a ratings thing.
Possibly.
And maybe a spider bite on screen automatically means like adult content or R-rated or something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know, because the gunshot wounds were fairly bloody.
Well, that's true.
I would think that would have a little more. I mean, maybe not. But
And Jeff said there was a little bit of swearing too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe the animation just didn't come out right, and they just decided not to go with that.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, well, for my money, I actually enjoy the show quite a bit too, and much like Jeff was saying, I think this is what you were saying, Jeff, is that you want to keep it in animation.
Yeah, I mean, I like the way it's set up. I think it works well. I would be okay with it going to live action, but like you said, it would be. I don't think they could do like the animal forms around her. I think if they were to do it, they would have to do it more. Maybe I don't know if they do it just like in an audio cue or just have like maybe a facial expression like. Like when she goes into the bird, like her eyes kind of get narrow pupils or something, or maybe like some fangs when she goes into the cheetah mode or whatever. I don't know exactly how they would do it, but it would be a little bit of a leap to get that onto the TV.
Like a freeze frame and animal imagery shows up behind her.
Yeah, something like that.
It would be strange. Oh, well, not strange. I guess I don't know how it would play out, but to end up having 45 minutes episodes with this character, I don't know. Like I like it, but I don't know that she can carry like a 13 episode or 26 episode season.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, I guess I'm more in favor of her being a guest star than anything else.
Yeah, I have a hard time seeing Vixen, like the show, being a big hit, say, on CW Network.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and then... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, the only thing I was going to say, I almost got the impression that they basically just took a pilot and just chopped it into 5 or 6.
Yeah, it really seems like that.
Because it almost, watching them in a row, they could have very easily just been
flowed right in.
So I'm kind of wondering if that's what happened.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move on to the next topic then. Gotham is the first superhero show that we've had back this week.
Oh, I meant to mention this earlier, by the way. We are definitely starting the superhero season. We've got Gotham and Heroes Reborn this week. I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is next week, isn't it?
That's right.
And Arrow and Flash are coming up soon. The season has begun. Anyway, go ahead.
It has begun, yeah. Gotham was an interesting show, I think.
Yeah.
We saw a few returning faces on this week's show, and we got an update on what Bruce and Alfred were up to, as well as Gordon. I guess the episode kind of progresses and shows Gordon as a street cop now, and we kind of saw that play out at the end of the last season, and Loeb is still kind of enjoying his power struggle with, his winning power struggle with Jim Gordon.
Short-lived in this episode.
Short-lived, yeah. I would say it's probably the A story, that Gordon is dealing with getting his old job back. And I think there's a great relationship, somewhat scary maybe, that he has with the Penguin as far as the deals he's willing to go through. Gordon, I mean, we'll spoil the first episode. Gordon actually kills a man.
Yep.
I'm honestly surprised that he did. I know it wasn't that intentional, but it was still, I think, an interesting sort of thing for the character to do that probably is going to come back to haunt him at some point.
Yep.
Now he's not as clean as he wants to be.
I've heard Ben McKenzie say that first episode choice is going to be very important for the rest of the season.
Okay. That would make sense. I mean, somebody had to see something. He was in a parking garage, right? I mean...
Yeah. So basically the general gist was Gordon, he was out on the streets. He brought in Zardon, this like bit criminal who was trying to be a supervillain, I guess. And basically he decided, I need to get my old job back. So he goes to Penguin and basically asks Penguin to find some way to remove Loeb. And Penguin says he will do it, but then Gordon will owe him a favor.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that. Maybe I missed it. Maybe this is when Gordon saved Penguin from Falcone last season. But didn't Gordon actually owe Penguin 2 favors? I thought there was a thing in season 1.
Yeah, I thought so too, but it did sound like they thought that was wrapped up at the hospital.
Yeah, maybe that's where that got wrapped up. But anyway, so Gordon asks Penguin to get rid of Loeb, and Penguin asks Gordon to... He doesn't ask him to kill the guy, but he asks him to go talk to this guy who owes him money. And it's pretty clear once Gordon gets there that this guy's not interested in giving Penguin his money, and that this was going to turn ugly no matter what.
Yeah.
So Gordon's pretty upset about that, but he ends up killing the guy. And then we get this great scene with Zaz and Penguin in Commissioner Loeb's kitchen, and it's actually the first time I've seen Loeb look scared on the show.
Oh, yeah, agreed.
Yeah, so Zaz actually decapitates one of his guards and then starts like talking with his head, which is just this like very dark, creepy humor. But yeah, so then Gordon gets his job back.
Yeah, so that's kind of running in that plot line. We also see that Barbara, after the events of the first season, she's now part of the Arkham inmate crew.
Yep.
But she's quickly broken out of prison and along with Jerome, who we remember from the first season. Seemingly, he's going to be the Joker of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And then not Roman Sionis, but a different Sionis. I forget the guy's first name, but seemingly has ties to Black Mask, although that was never really alluded to or mentioned on the episode.
Yeah, they called him the Mask in season 1, and he had him. Yeah, he had like this tribal mask, but it wasn't the Black Mask.
Okay. So that's kind of what's going on there, is that there's almost like a Suicide Squad being built up on Gotham, even though they're not calling it that.
Yeah, and there were a couple other guys that got broken out with Barbara and Jerome and Sionis. There's actually a trailer for the rest of the season where you see a little bit more of those people. And also, basically, so after Loeb gets deposed, they instill this new guy, Theo Galavan, as the new commissioner. And then we find out that Zardon from earlier in the episode was actually a plant by Galavan and his sister, who's Tigress, by the way.
Not to be confused with Zordon.
No.
You're right.
2 A's, by the way. He was very clear about that. So when Zardon is in jail, he's got this gas in him that releases and allows Galavan and his sister to come in and release all the prisoners. And then Sionis tries to play tough guy, and Tigress kills him, just outright kills him.
Yeah, that was pretty shocking. So he's probably got family somewhere that we didn't know about.
Yep.
So.
I don't think I've missed anything else, but we did see Selena. Oh, I guess, firstly, we saw Selena in Penguin's group, I guess. She didn't really do much in the episode, but yeah, we saw that she's still with Penguin. And Bruce and Alfred found their way to his dad's secret room. And there was a note left in there.
Almost seems like his dad was maybe doing the Dark Knight thing before Bruce was, but we don't know that.
Yep. Bruce kind of got obsessed with breaking into the room and ended up building a bomb, which Alfred helped him with, and then ended up finding out that the password to the room was his name.
Yeah, right. That was almost kind of sad when he realized that. He never even thought.
Yep.
So. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think the first episode of Gotham for season 2 is pretty good. I liked the show enough in the first season that I stuck with it most of the way through. And I do feel like Joker, if it is Joker, Jerome wasn't as scary or as, shocking as he was when we saw him in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting more out of him, and I don't think we got it, but maybe they're saving that for future episodes.
Yeah, from what I've seen, there's definitely more to come with him in the future.
So, but I'm definitely looking forward to the next episode.
All right.
Alright, well, let's go ahead and talk about then Heroes Reborn, both the prequel web series and the main show. And Greg, you're kind of covering this one for us. What can you tell us?
Okay, so the web series I'll start with because it actually is a prequel to the show. We meet these two characters, Phoebe and Quentin Frady, and Phoebe has the ability to manipulate light and darkness. She discovers this ability after their mother dies, and they have this kind of bond between the two of them where she tries to she shows her brother, and he starts recording things for her, and then she goes off to college, and the whole thing is done as this sort of found footage, one episode mini series. It was originally released in multiple parts, but I watched it all as one thing. So we see the progression of her from discovering she has these abilities to kind of being overcome by them, and eventually she actually goes off and joins this kind of splinter group of so to backtrack a little bit, they've come up with this name for the heroes now called Evos, and there's this very Friends of Humanity style oppression that happens against the Evos due to an event on June 13th at Primatech Paper Company where a giant explosion kills 1,000 people. They're not entirely clear on the events of what happened, but we know that there was some sort of catastrophe. Was
Noah there?
Yes, actually. This gets blamed on Mohinder from the original series, and Phoebe was also implicated in the events. We didn't see any of Phoebe in the series premiere, but I don't know if we will see her in the future. So there was this web guy named Hero Truther, this kind of doomsayer, that Phoebe's brother Quentin started getting... trying to find out more about. He's kind of an Evo advocate, and the Hero Truther ends up hacking Quentin's laptop, and at this point I'm like, okay, this has to be Micah. And we find out at the end of the episode that it is in fact Micah. And his base gets stormed, and most of them get taken or killed, but Quentin gets away. So then that's kind of where the series picks up. And like I said, we have this this sort of tension against the Evos, and there's this really ham-handed allegory like for the whole God hates Evos things, and they talk about coming out as an Evo, which I thought that was a little bit silly. And there's also a little bit where you get...
it almost sounds too, sorry to interrupt you,
yeah.
not just the Friends of Humanity, that was kind of the kid-friendly version of racist on the Fox X-Men cartoon. But there is the Church of Humanity in the comics that is run by Reverend Stryker, and I'm getting a lot of similar vibes between that and the Purifiers, I believe is what they call themselves. And so I just find it interesting that Heroes is kind of employing that sort of thing.
Yeah, and it really, like, just watching the premiere episode, it kind of struck me in a way that Heroes was trying to beat Civil War to the punch with the whole hero registration thing. Like, you saw Heroes, like, there were Evo detectors where they go in and, they would, like, reveal their abilities, and they had to have special ID cards. It got quite political, actually. And there were even little sound bites from Obama and George Bush in the intro.
Heroes is sounding more like they're taking advantage of the fact that Marvel Cinematic Universe can't really do X-Men stuff.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I was getting an X-Men vibe for sure.
That's awesome. I gotta find time for this show.
Yeah, no, there were some really good things about it. So, the Primatech Paper Company got blown up on June 13th, but in the web series, Phoebe went and applied at this biotech firm called Renatus, and toward the end of the episode, we kind of learned that Renatus is pretty shady and actually possibly just a new Primatech. So Quentin gets a job with them to try to infiltrate after Phoebe goes missing, and he finds himself actually digitizing Primatech documents and begins to basically suspect that they're the same company. And we don't see Quentin much until about halfway through the first episode when he tracks down Noah. But we do meet some new characters, Tommy, Carlos, and Miko, and a couple others that are going to become more important in the future. So Tommy has the ability to kind of teleport things. He's a high schooler, and he doesn't really know where the things go. But by the end of the first episode, we learn that it's probably what he's thinking about, where he sends things. So he actually, at the beginning of the episode, is at this Evo meeting where a new character played by Zachary Levi from Chuck ends up turning out to be, I guess, a mole. He goes into this meeting with the intention of killing all the Evos there because his son, Dennis, was at the June 13th disaster. So he has this kind of resentment towards the Evos. Tommy gets out because there's this guy who's kind of in the shadows, manipulating him, sending him text messages, told him to leave the meeting right before Zachary Levi's character kills everyone. So then he ends up kind of confiding in this girl at his school after he causes Zachary Levi to disappear when Zachary Levi shows up to get him at his place of work, or his prospective place of work. And he ends up building this relationship with this girl, and her boyfriend asks Tommy to make her dad disappear because he's apparently a wife beater and some other things, which Tommy refuses. But then this shadowy guy that is watching over Tommy apparently causes the dad to disappear. So there's more going on with that character, I'm sure we'll see in the future. Then there's a character, Carlos, who a friend of his turns out to be this vigilante character. I can't remember his name in the show, but the vigilante wears a luchador mask and has superpowers and is kind of a... He gave me a lot of Daredevil vibes as a sort of like protector of the underprivileged.
Interesting.
And then the character, the luchador character, actually gets killed in the first episode, and there are strong hints that Carlos is going to pick up the mask and kind of take over. But as far as we know, Carlos does not have powers. But this other character, Jose, who is, I think, related to the luchador guy, Oscar, who dies, does have powers. He seems to have like a Shadow Cat-style phasing ability. Then there's this other character, a Japanese woman named Miko, who she and this other guy are involved in like an MMO-style game called Evernow. And this guy is like the top player in the game and comes to her house, and she looks exactly like this character Katana Girl in the game. So he tells her basically that there's this legend or this story in the game that Katana Girl will find a sword below this board in her house, and it will unlock. It's a key that unlocks the ability for her to enter the game. She doesn't believe him, tells him to leave, but after he leaves, she finds the sword, opens it, and is immediately transported into the game. And there's this very kind of reboot-esque, maybe a little bit better looking CG, where she can suddenly fight very, very well with this katana, and is killing lots of guys. I think the CG is pretty bad in the game, especially by modern standards, but I think part of the reason they do that is because the CG is actually pretty violent. She's decapitating people and cutting them in half, and I think having that low quality CG allows them to be more violent in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so her father is missing in this game, and there's this kind of connection between the game and the real world, where in the game, her father is being held captive at Yamagato Tower. In the game, she goes to Yamagato Tower and then switches back to the real world, and she's actually in the tower and gets attacked by these guards. And the episode actually ends with her fighting these guards off in the tower. But to go back to Noah for a little bit, so Quentin and Noah meet up. Quentin is stalking Noah, who has started this new life as, I can't remember his name, something Barnes. But Noah basically brings him back to Primatech, where they find the building has been burned down, but underground they find that there are still some Evo experiments going on. And he wants to track down Molly Walker because, if you remember from the original series, Molly has the ability to find people. When they get to the bottom of the base, they see this big board of a list of all the Evos, but Molly's listed as information lost or something. And we see Molly in a casino out in, I guess, Vegas or somewhere, and she's manipulating this guy into getting his money from him. But it turns out this guy is a telekinetic Evo, and he and his girlfriend, I guess, trick Molly into captivity, I guess. Molly is, I think, the only character from the original show who is not played by the actress from the original show, which is a little bit disappointing, especially because on the reboot, or I guess the restart, she is very different looking. I never would have guessed that it was actually Molly Walker from the original show.
Okay. So, well, any DNA logos that you noticed throughout the episode?
So yes, actually at Primatech, the ruins of Primatech, Noah's car gets stolen by Zachary Levi and his wife, and he's got the DNA keychain or whatever hanging from his rearview mirror.
Gotcha.
And it's also Noah thinks that Clara is dead, but I don't believe that for a second.
She's dead until they can get her to come away from her current show.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, so thoughts on the show then? You think it's worth watching?
Yes, I'm definitely going to keep watching. I'm interested to see where it goes. I would say the most interesting plot line to me right now is the video game thing, but I mean that's just because I'm a Japanophile and I like video games.
Fair enough. So yeah, I'm going to see if I can find time to check out that show. But it sounds like it's doing all the right things right now.
Yep.
So wouldn't mind saying Robert never again, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see a lot of the old people back soon.
All right, well then let's go ahead and move on to one of my favorite books of the summer, I think. Secret War, of course, is going on. We started covering that before the show went on hiatus. Just as a quick refresher, the Marvel comic book universe is going through a bit of a change right now, and things are kind of in limbo as God Doom reshapes the universe. And one of the stories that was running kind of on one of those parallel dimensions or universes that Doom created was a story where Peter Parker and Mary Jane were married and had a daughter. And this story was done by Dan Slott, who was the current writer of Amazing Spider-Man up until the book was canceled with Secret War starting. And the art was actually done by, I'm going to forget which Kubert it is. I think it is Adam Kubert, the same guy who did Ultimate X-Men and several other things for Marvel over the years. But I really enjoyed this miniseries. It's been one of my favorite ones that I've read in a while. And initially going into the book, I thought it was going to be sort of a pre-One More Day what-if story, but really, aside from the fact that Peter and Mary were still together, there was really nothing from that previous Spider-Man continuity in this book. It was kind of its own new thing, but I really liked the idea that Peter was a vigilante hiding from an overpowering sort of villainous character, this guy named the Regent. And as we go through the story, we kind of learn that he's initially they make it sound like he's just, thoughtlessly killing all these superheroes because he's greedy and wants to get their powers. And they kind of try to humanize him towards the end and say, oh, he was really just doing this to take on God Doom.
Yeah, that actually surprised me that they tried to sympathize him a little bit. Yeah, he had kind of this goal of becoming powerful enough to fight God Doom, which, spoilers, doesn't end up happening.
Right. And I do feel like maybe the story didn't need that aspect. I wasn't ready to sympathize with this guy at any point. But I thought it was a really fun story, the idea of how Peter hides, the way that he interacts with his family, the way that his daughter is showing these powers, and how he's trying to teach her to live in a world where she can't, reveal who she is. And then I love the moment when he's finally, the family as a whole are finally like, all right, we're here to save the day. And it was such a fun read, I think, through and through. And I really enjoyed the artwork the whole way. But it's definitely a miniseries that I think you guys need to check out. Even if you're not reading Secret Wars, I think it's enough of a self-contained story that it's definitely worth checking out.
It was a very pleasant surprise. Like, I went into it with no expectations, and I ended up loving it.
Yeah, I mean, it was just fun. That's probably the best word that I can use to describe it. And even Mary Jane gets her moment. I mean, and there's some other heroes that show up. Lesser-powered superheroes, like Hawkeye shows up as almost a new Nick Fury type. And Cloak and Dagger are there, and a few other ones.
Well, actually, didn't Cloak die? Oh, well, he got his powers taken.
I can't even remember now.
Yeah, well, the Regent made some comment about how when Dagger shows up, he's like, now I get to collect the whole set or something.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. So we also get the Sinister Six, who are kind of an anti-police force.
Yep.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. So, but really, just a really great book. So I definitely wanted to make sure that we touched on it.
What did you think about the angrier, more violent Spider-Man? They kind of redeem him at the end because he could have killed Regent, but chooses not to.
Yeah.
But he does kind of kill Venom. Like we didn't. I was expecting after the end of that first issue.
Oh, right. Yeah. They show up again.
Yeah, that we'd see him again. But no, it really looks like he's dead. At least in that continuity.
I liked it. I mean, I've never thought of Peter as a guy who doesn't kill. I mean, Spider-Man, there have been times where he's had to, but in that sense, I guess, the darkness, that the character was kind of played with there, kind of reminds me of post-Civil War when Aunt May's been shot and Peter goes after Kingpin in prison to take him out. I mean, I like that sort of a hero who knows when it's time to take care of business.
Yep.
So, now, what's interesting about this series is a couple of things. Going into Secret War, we were kind of led to believe that this is potentially the continuity for Spider-Man post-Secret Wars. And based on how the book ends, and the announcements we know about post-Secret Wars, I'm not sure that that's the case.
Okay.
We know already that Mary Jane is going to be a supporting player in the new Invincible Iron Man book. And Brian Michael Bendis is going to write that, and I forget who's doing the art. It's a newer artist from Marvel. But Mary Jane is going to be working at Stark, and when he did an interview with, I believe it was IGN he did the interview with, he said that Marvel had a big creator retreat while they were talking about what to do post-Secret Wars, and nobody had any plans for Mary Jane.
You don't think that the Mary Jane working with Iron Man is riffing in a way off the fact that she wore the power suit at the end of Renew Your Vows?
I would love to think that's true, but if Dan Slott's at that meeting, and he's going to be writing Amazing Spider-Man post-Secret War, and he said I have no plans for Mary Jane, feel free to use her in Iron Man, it really makes me wonder how much of Renew Your Vows is going to even matter this fall. So that disappoints me a little bit. I really wanted Renew Your Vows to bleed into post-Secret War. I really like that continuity they set up. I've always been a fan of Peter and Mary together. I like that they had the kid. I mean, it wasn't Mayday Parker, but it was a girl who could easily fill those shoes if they chose to take the story that way.
Yep.
So, yeah, so it's just an interesting, a very fun self-contained story, but I just wonder what the thought process was behind that and what we're going to see, if that's even ever referenced again.
No, I think it'd be interesting, yeah, in an Iron Man context to see Mary Jane also suit up, or at least have her, rib Iron Man about, I've worn a suit before, it's not so tough, or something like that,
Right. I mean, and again, that would acknowledge the miniseries. So I'm really curious to see what's going on with that. Post-Secret War, I do plan on reading the new Amazing Spider-Man book, and I think Greg will be reading it with me. Maybe even Jeff too. But we'll have to talk about when that first issue comes out, how that relates to Spider-Man Renew Your Vows. But really, it's a miniseries you guys definitely want to check out. And even if you don't read the Secret War story, definitely try to check out. There's only 4 issues of it. Spider-Man Renew Your Vows, and I think you'll have a lot of fun.
It's actually 5, I think, but Regent doesn't die at the end, so I'm curious, do you think we'll see him again?
I honestly don't know, because now that this story's over, they're kind of talking more about post-Secret War, and nobody's really bringing that up.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see, though.
He had a look of kind of like a hulked-up human, even when he wasn't in his suit.
He did, and it's worth noting that he was kind of a man of business, I guess. I don't know. He had a giant skyscraper.
Yeah.
And post Secret Wars, Peter is going to be a philanthropist based out of San Francisco and almost a business rival for Tony Stark. So Peter Parker is going to be more in the public eye than he's ever been before. So I don't know. Maybe Region somehow plays into that.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see, though. But it was worth noting too, I guess. The whole reason that Region was wanting Spider-Man as like his trophy prize in this whole story is that the Spider Sense he claimed was the ultimate ability that would, help anybody win the day. So I kind of like that. So, all right, well then that's Spider-Man Renew Your Vows. Not the only comic book we're reading currently. Star Wars, of course, has an ongoing comic book, and I believe while we've been gone, issues 7, 8, and 9 have come out. Let's go ahead and talk about the most recent one. Jeff, why don't you go ahead and tell us where the story's at this point?
Sure. So yeah, they've got a few different plots running at the moment. The big one everyone's talking about is Santa Solo, Han's quote-unquote wife. We don't really know a whole lot about yet. Essentially, Han and Leia are hiding out on this planet from the Imperials, and Santa comes up basically wanting to turn Leia in to collect the bounty, not realizing that Han is a rebel too. So they have essentially a showdown. Everyone draws guns on each other. It's kind of a big standoff till the Empire shows up. They end up bailing. So right now they're on the run from the Empire. We know. Basically, it's the first time, at least if I can remember, that we've seen Han say, "I'm a rebel." He comes out and yells at it. So that was kind of cool, and kind of choosing sides, I guess, or making it known. Because Santa clearly doesn't know. She just thinks of him, as a smuggler. She has no idea that he's taking a side in this. So they're on the run right now. They all do fly off in the same ship. So
because Santa blew up their ship.
Yeah, blew up their ship. So they are all still together at the moment. So to see where that goes. Luke it was actually a pretty interesting bit of canon this week. So essentially he's no idea what to do. Ben's gone and doesn't know where to go. So he does the first thing that Ben or Obi-Wan did when he was with him. He finds the dirtiest, nastiest can and goes in asking questions.
Yeah.
As you would suspect, he basically just, as soon as he starts asking questions, he just gets jumped.
The whole bar.
Yeah, he's literally on a smuggler's planet.
Yeah.
So the whole bar just lays into him. Throughout the scuffle, he actually does lose his lightsaber. It gets stolen. So then there is kind of a cool parkour, like roof-to-roof chase sequence.
I gotta say, the art, by the way, by Stuart Eminem on this issue, I think is just firing on all cylinders.
Yeah,
yes,
I really like him.
I was very surprised. I wasn't sure how I was going to like him, but I agree. He's doing a very good job.
I was surprised because Simone Bianchi just took over in issue 7 and only did one issue, I guess.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Yeah, it's kind of. That issue in general was just a standalone Obi-Wan story, which I enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed the artwork in this one more.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, but yeah. So they had that awesome kind of chase through Nar Shaddaa. Then Luke finally catches up, but it turns out the guy wasn't after the saber. He was trying to draw out Luke. There's a hut they run into that he's working for. Called Gracchus. Is big and buff. Was the main thing that his arms are just ripped, which is a lot different than you see from Jabba. He's not just a big slob. He's I don't know if he's like a weightlifting hut or what. But
he also had like a Mojo style walker. I don't know if that's normal for huts.
Yeah, I kind of caught that too. But yeah, so he takes Luke back to to his base or whatever. And it turns out he's a collector of Jedi memorabilia, which is kind of a nice counter to what's happening in the Lando comic right now. Because in the Lando comic, they just revealed that, it's the Emperor Palpatine. No one in the book knows that he's a Sith, but he's collecting Sith memorabilia, so I thought it was kind of cool. They came out within a week of each other.
Oh, okay.
Kind of countering each other in the two books. But yeah, so he essentially gives Luke to the count of 5. The room's full of Jedi holocrons. And he said, if you're really strong in the forces, you say you are, you've got 5 seconds to open this up. And Luke, of course, have no idea what he's doing. But just the stress of it eventually just gets him all at once. All these holocrons open. And it's really Luke's first exposure outside of his lightsaber to any Jedi relics.
Right.
It reminded me a lot of the Indiana Jones, the big warehouse full of just boxes.
Yeah.
It's the same type of thing, but it's all Jedi stuff. one frame in particular, I don't know if you guys, I'm not sure how much you watch Clone Wars or how much you watch Rebels, you would have caught on to it. So there's one frame that has several of the holocrons in it. Each Jedi Master is saying, like, a line from the Jedi Code or something like that. And then the very last one is a Togruta, which, if you're familiar, is the same race as Ahsoka, has the exact same coloring.
I noticed that.
Yeah. And it's the very last quote. She says, "Don't let this be the end of the Jedi." And it's clearly an adult Togruta. So I'm wondering if that's kind of a hint that she's going to survive at least through Rebels or get a little bit older. Because that's kind of one of the discussions with all the Star Wars shows, is by the time that you get to A New Hope, it needs to just be Yoda and Obi-Wan. And if the Rebellion knows about Ahsoka, knows about Kanan, that doesn't really go on. So something has to happen to them where they're not necessarily dead, but they have to be out of the picture before Episode 4. Or I guess in this case it'd be Episode 5, with where the comic is.
I was going to say, it looks like this character saying, whoever is seeing this, it's up to you now. Don't let our deaths be in vain. Don't let this be the end of the Jedi.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that's going to possibly Ezra, for sure, Kanan, and I mean, that's assuming that it's Ahsoka, that, it's not just, a red herring and she just happens to look like her.
Yeah, that's a great little Easter egg. I didn't notice that. So if we do see Ahsoka die later in the series, it'll be great to go back and look and be like, oh my gosh, that's her right there.
Yeah, and I think if it happens to her, it has to happen to Kanan and Ezra as well. But yeah, I mean, I just thought that was a cool little Easter egg. If it's not her, they very intentionally colored her the same way to make you think. But yeah, so that was.
Let me just cut in really quick. Sure. This is in reference to Disney Infinity. I haven't seen Rebels, and I only saw bits and pieces of Clone Wars. But Ahsoka has a headdress on, right? Like on top of whatever those.
No, that is her head.
That's her head. So the Infinity figure is just stylizing that then.
It's essentially. I guess you can't see the video. I've got it right here. It's kind of like the Twi'leks or Twi'leks, however you want to say it. Have their head tails. It's essentially the same thing. That's the equivalent of her hair, but it's.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's tattooed. I know that race historically in Star Wars has been very fond of tattoos. You can see she's kind of got the designs on her face.
Yeah.
I don't think the coloring on her head is supposed to be a tattoo. I think it's just, like I said, essentially like her hair, but I could be wrong on that.
Okay, no, that's fine. I was just curious. I didn't know if that was like a defining characteristic of Ahsoka as far as how we could tell her apart from other similar aliens.
No. I mean, all of at least that they've shown of that race, they all have that similar head, but it's not always that same color.
Okay. All right. Then.
But yeah, also coming to Star Wars, Shattered Empire also came out, the first post-Return of the Jedi book. Not a lot of huge reveals in it. It essentially starts out with Luke and Vader fighting on the second Death Star. You see the explosion. Thought there was a little cool tidbit when Luke's flying away, he's in an Imperial shuttle, and the rebels actually start firing on him, not knowing that it's him in the ship. So he has to, radio out real quick, say, "Hey, I'm not with the Empire, I'm with the Empire," because all they see is Vader's shuttle coming off. They have no idea.
Oh yeah.
So that was kind of cool. But so essentially it fairly quickly goes to Endor. Everyone's partying. You do see really the only big new reveal. You're intended to believe it's Poe Dameron's parents. There are two rebel troopers that get together in the book. Last name Dameron. So
okay.
It's assuming you're seeing Poe being made in the book. Because it basically pans to them in bed. Right after the fact, but
yeah, I was going to ask if there's any Force Awakens set up in there, so I guess you got that at least.
That's really it. And then the next day, Han has to lead a group to essentially they just clear out the last remaining Imperials on Endor. Basically, he says something along the lines of, we just won this war. We don't want the first day of the New Republic to be us leaving the Ewoks with an Imperial nest still on the planet. But yeah, that's really extended. Like I said, other than the little Easter egg. If you couldn't tell from the X-Wing, he's flying. Poe Dameron is obviously going to be a rebel, and his parents were rebels.
Okay.
Or I guess I don't know what they're going to call them, members of the New Republic. But
Now, do we see that sort of black X-Wing that Poe Dameron's been shown to be flying in the new trailer?
Not in this show. They don't actually show Poe. This is immediately after the movie ends. Seriously, essentially the only look at Poe is the last name. They say that the father's last name is Dameron.
But the parents aren't using that X-Wing or anything.
No. He's actually more of a kind of like a guerrilla ground troop, shock troop type thing.
All right. Now I guess I got one more question for you about the Star Wars proper comic. Maybe I need to watch the movies again, but I thought Luke knew relatively nothing about the Jedi Order aside from what Obi-Wan told him in A New Hope, and he didn't really learn anything until he went to Dagobah in Empire Strikes Back. But with the way that Issue 9 is playing out, he's on Coruscant, right?
So he's trying to find his way there, but yeah.
Yeah, he's trying to get there, yeah.
But he's seen all of these holocrons now, and he seems to be learning a lot about what the Jedi are that he seemingly didn't have that knowledge in the movies. I mean, am I missing something, or is that just...
So in the book, he doesn't really... kind of, the version, or the way I read it, was all of these holocrons are going off at once, so I don't think he's actually getting a lot of information from it. I think he's just seeing them all pop up, and I think 10's going to show more, because you really don't get a lot of reaction other than, everything starts lighting up in the room and they immediately pan back to the other stories. So at this point, I honestly don't even think he knows they're called holocrons. I think he just knows everything he saw were related to the Jedi.
Okay.
And it was fairly common knowledge because the Emperor Palpatine's he makes his home essentially is the I think they reveal that in Lando. His home is the old Jedi Temple. He lives in it.
Okay.
So I think it's fairly common knowledge, what the Jedi were, at least that they existed. Because it's only been 30, or not even 30 years. It's I guess closer to 20 years since the fall.
Yeah.
Because I think Luke's supposed to be like 18 or 19 in the first book.
Well, I know that people know about the Jedi because I think Han in the movies even says that he doesn't believe in all of that space mythology or something. All he needs is a good blaster at his side.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, all right. Well, I was just curious. I'm really wanting to follow this series and find out how much they do since this is between episode 4 and 5. Right now Luke's already encountered Vader for one, and I didn't think that happened between movies 4 and 5. So I'm just curious to see how much they stretch and pull continuity to kind of maintain the story we already know exists. So.
Yeah, and they're gonna have to be very careful with the way they do it. I know because earlier in the series they made a point of Luke really wasn't wanting to go do anything because he was so terrified of Vader after seeing him the first time. He was basically just huddled up training because he thought he wasn't good enough to really be a help to anyone.
Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting to see where they go with it. I honestly don't think he's ever going to make it to Coruscant. I think, like you said, that would be too much information between 4 and 5 for him to gain. He really wouldn't have as much to learn from Yoda at that point. So I don't see him ever making it there. It was also a lead into the Chewbacca comic.
Oh yeah, that's right. Chewbacca showed up at the end
of the comic. So essentially, the rebels find out that Luke is captured, but I don't remember exactly what happens. But they essentially figure out that he's on Nar Shaddaa, and they know he got captured, but they don't have the resources to send anyone after him. So they essentially, say who would be crazy enough to do that, and you hear the roar from the background, and it's Chewbacca, and 3PO is there next to him, and 3PO I think is getting begrudgingly drug along because you hear that he essentially says, "What do you mean we?" when Chewbacca did do it. So that'll be interesting to see. The only thing I really know about that book is they're not going to translate for Chewbacca. They've already said when he's roaring, he's just going to be roaring.
Yeah, that's a cool touch.
Yeah. So.
All right. Well, then on the Star Wars topic, let's go ahead and talk about Disney Infinity. Jeff and I have both picked up Disney Infinity 3.0. Greg is eagerly awaiting the PC version, which is coming when, Greg?
Hopefully on the 29th when everything else releases. We'll see.
So, pure optimism there.
Yeah.
But what was it? 3.0 released in August, right?
Yep.
Actually, I think right around my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeff, being the good Star Wars fan that he is, picked up every possible thing you can get for the game. Did you get the Infinity Disc? Power-up disc, Jeff?
I did.
All right. So you got Mace Windu in your corner.
Yeah, so you get a Mace Windu team up, and then you get a couple. You get a new skyline and a new ground. It's actually a planet from Clone Wars for the toy box, so that was kind of neat.
Okay.
Looks pretty nice.
So, well, then I guess you have still the standard version of the game, though, right? You haven't played any of the original trilogy stuff. You've only played Twilight of the Republic.
I have only played Twilight Republic, yes, so far.
Okay. That is all I have played as well, and I have finished the whole story mode myself. I guess, Jeff, let us know what you think of the game, and then I'll chime in with what I think.
Sure. I absolutely loved it. 2.0 was my first exposure to Disney Infinity, so it definitely had a similar feel to it, almost like a cleaned up version of 2.0. They definitely, we were kind of talking about it earlier before we started streaming, they reward you for playing on harder difficulties now. There's actually a star system for the missions.
Yes, I noticed that.
Yeah, and some of them you actually have to be playing on the hardest difficulty to get some of the achievements. Thought that was kind of nice.
Yep.
Really, I mean, the story mode is a little short. I think that would be my only complaint. There were a decent amount of side quests, but I mean, you can burn through the main story in probably 4 hours if you play through it. There are a lot of side quests. Pod racing was cool. I thought that was a nice touch. They added that in.
I see. Well, I gotta say then, I was not a fan of the pod racing, and I think the game forces you to do it at least 3 or 4 times. And I was very much done when that got done. And I don't know, man. I don't feel the controls are as tight as they need to be, but maybe I'm just not playing it the right way.
I would agree with that, and that was one. There's actually, outside of the pod racing, there's a couple other driving side missions that I just gave up on trying to 3-star because there's definitely a little bit of delay. I felt in the pod racing the tracks were wide enough that that you could kind of get around it, but I could definitely see that.
Yeah.
I've been hoping, I haven't played 3.0 yet, but I've been hoping they'd fix kind of the driving controls because that was a serious issue in 2.0 with especially like the driving challenges where it's like I tried them so many times, but it's like these controls are just making it impossible.
Yeah. That's definitely still around for sure.
Granted, I haven't spent any time in an actual car in 3.0, and maybe this is just the way they handle pod races, but the driving just felt really floaty. I didn't feel like I was able to turn as hard as I needed to when I needed to.
Yeah, and I had the same thing. Especially even on the other side missions where you're in just a regular speeder instead of a pod racer, it's the same thing. It's still very floaty driving controls.
Okay. Well, that's kind of disappointing because I was looking forward to the kart racing pack, I guess, that comes out later this fall. But maybe we'll have to pass on that. I don't know. But
one thing I will say, the mission where you're chasing Cad Bane through, I believe it's Coruscant, you're flying through the city.
Oh yeah.
Almost like an old Panzer Dragoon style, kind of flying around shooting. That and then the starship controls I thought actually handled very well as opposed to the car driving, which is atrocious.
Yeah.
I was actually really enjoying the piloting missions and kind of flying through the cities, that kind of stuff. Those I thought they handled very well for the kind of the scope of the game.
Absolutely, and the combat too I think is a lot better. And I think the game is at its best when you're playing on extreme difficulties. So you have to use the power move that breaks blocks, or you have to air juggle guys and fixing force powers where you're like stuck and then blow a combo or something. I mean, I think that all is out very, very nicely. I'm very happy with that.
The one complaint I do have with the hardest difficulty, it seems like the enemy's health bars are just obscenely high in some cases.
Yes.
I mean, I would get, because you can do the juggling combo if you time it right. You can basically have a never-ending chain of juggling. And it would seriously felt like it was at least a good minute. I was just having to juggle stronger enemies in the air, and there'd be a mob of like 5 of them. So these fights would just drag on forever because not that I was getting hurt, it just took so long to kill everything.
Yeah, damage sponges are not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I played the entire thing on extreme until I got to the final boss. And I don't know, should I spoil who the final boss is of the playset or just...
Yeah, I think that's fairly common knowledge.
Okay, well I was playing Darth Maul, and I've only got 3 Infinity figures. I've got Sabine, and then I've got the 2 that came with the starter set, Anakin and Ahsoka. And right now my Anakin's level 17, my Ahsoka's probably 13, and my Sabine is probably 16 or 17. Because I've only got that small roster, they've been leveling up pretty quickly for me. But I got to the point in the last mission where they're having you fight so much fodder in between waves of battling Darth Maul that my guy just could not survive that long.
Yeah.
So I had to turn it down a little bit. I'm hoping I can go back with a maxed out character and try to do it on extreme this time. But outside of that, I mean, I think I enjoyed the game's playstyle. Overall, I enjoyed it a lot better, I think, than I've enjoyed 2.0. And I'm looking forward to see how that gets adapted to the Marvel content we're expecting this fall.
Yeah, I would agree.
I saw somebody in the Darth Maul boss battle. They actually were doing that infinite you were talking about, where they launch him up and then they do a bunch of sword attacks, and then they force pull him in. They do more sword attacks and they force pull him in. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, not every character has force pull. Granted, I've only got 2 Jedi on my roster, but Ahsoka actually pushes people away, which is helpful near cliffs, but not really in arena battles. But Anakin will actually pull people in. So I don't know, other characters that have the push versus pull?
Anakin is the only pull. I think that's supposed to be because he's more aggressive. He's pulling people in towards him instead of pushing them away. Obi-Wan is also push. Obi-Wan actually has a cool mechanic. His, I guess, super, for lack of a better term. He can actually take control of enemies.
Oh.
Nice.
Yeah, you can mind control him. So if you have, a mob of 5 guys and one boss, you can mind control the boss, and he'll start going around killing out the enemies.
That's
awesome. The only problem with that is any damage that you do to him turns it off. So if you use a team up, like use the Mace Windu team up, and he runs in and smacks the boss once, then your mind control's immediately gone. So you have to be kind of choosy when you use it. It doesn't always work, but I thought that was kind of a cool item. Yoda is hands down the most powerful character in the game. He is.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, his super is charges. I think he can get up to like 12 or 14 of them. And each time you proc it, he dashes to a new person and does damage, or you can just keep. It was almost like a Nightcrawler Vamp type move, just bouncing between everybody. But just silly powerful. You can't be targeted while you're doing it, and it recharges fairly quickly. So yeah, I mean, if you're only going to get one extra character, get Yoda. He's and most of the platforming side missions, if you want to 3-star him, Yoda's the character that they have you do it with. I don't know if it's just because he's so agile in the movies, but
okay, I've noticed that too. That some of those I've been able to do because of that.
Yeah.
I do like Sabine's special ability. Not watching Clone Wars, it's interesting that she kind of leaves paint grenades, and the higher you level it, the more you'll have that you can place, and they're actually, you detonate them. So if you got a group of guys, you can kind of lure them over the bomb and then just set it off, and do that a couple of times, and you can crowd control that way. So I appreciated that ability for her.
Yeah.
So Ahsoka, I'm actually least impressed with as far as her special ability to throw the lightsabers. Unless I just haven't leveled it up enough, it really just seems to smack them once and not really do a whole lot more damage than just striking the enemy anyway.
Yeah, you have to level it up a little bit. It basically gets to the point where when you charge it, they'll go out in a ring and then come back, and that's actually her version of the pull. It'll pull the enemies in towards you.
Okay.
And then her dash attack is just spinning lightsaber blades. So she's definitely better on mobs than a lot of area of effect.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So then I guess what we have what is it called, Greg? Is it Shadow of the Empire that's coming up? Or what are they called?
Rise Against the Empire.
Rise Against the Empire.
Yes.
Okay. And that comes out next Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can tell you, I probably won't be picking that up myself on Tuesday. At least not that fast. Jeff, are you getting it Tuesday?
Yeah, I'm gonna do the same thing before. I'm gonna have to make rounds and get all the characters. I do, if nothing else, for Twilight of the Republic, I need Han, Luke, and Leia so I can 3-star everything.
Yep. Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'm actually really excited for that. The Hoth mission specifically looked amazing, just taking down big walkers, and I can't wait for that.
Oh, that'd be cool. Oh yeah, and it's worth noting too, I guess, at least in my area, store exclusivity seems to be done.
Oh yeah, and it's.
Yes.
I think it was fully ended on the 22nd or 23rd. But yeah, there were a lot of reports of people seeing supposedly exclusive figures out even before then.
Yeah. So I almost wondered at first if it was people just returning the figure to the wrong store and they put it out anyway. But at this point, the saturation's so high, I feel like nobody's doing that. I mean, everybody must be getting everything now.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think the announcement was the 23rd, if I remember right. But yeah, they did put out a thing that, hey, everyone can get whatever now.
Okay, so. Well, I look forward to Marvel and definitely that playset when I get to it. Do you plan on playing Inside Out at all, Jeff?
I'm not sure. I mean, if it goes on sale, I'll probably pick it up. I didn't see the movie, so I'm not, overly excited for it, but the completionist in me will probably get it at some point. So.
I saw the movie. I actually really enjoyed it, but I'm still in the same boat. Yeah, if I see a good sale, I'll probably pick it up, but at this point, I think I want to focus on trying to get that Star Wars set for a good deal. And actually, I guess this is a good time to plug. If you guys are playing Disney Infinity like we are, looking for deals, every week at DisneyInfinityCodes.com, Greg updates all the sale prices for figures, for playsets, for all of that stuff. So if you're looking for the best way to mix and match and get the best deal, definitely be checking that website out. Also, you can follow Greg on Twitter at what address, Greg?
Yoshimitsu47. And yeah, I've been keeping the list updated. I know right now, for example, you can get the Saga bundles for like $90 on Amazon. There are some good deals out there right now.
Yeah, so definitely be following on that. So, also, I guess while we're talking about gaming, there is a new mobile game that came out. I know many months ago, Greg and I talked about Marvel Puzzle Quest and how much time we were sinking into it. I think even JT was on the show where we were talking about that one.
Yep.
But Star Trek, just this week, I want to say, maybe last week, but probably this week, released Star Trek Wrath of Gems, which is, so far, a mobile game that is very much like Marvel Puzzle Quest, but it's with the Star Trek property. And you can play either original series or Next Generation era. Now, I don't know if they're planning on doing Deep Space Nine or Voyager, but there's nothing in the game to suggest that they won't maybe expand to that in the future, so I think that's kind of exciting. And it's a game where you'll, level up your characters. You've got booster packs to get new characters. Different from the Marvel game is you'll have separate encounters where you're actually in the Enterprise or a Klingon, bird of prey or whatever you end up having in your selection. So I think the game is fun, especially for a Star Trek fan, but it does seem like it's a little rough around the edges. Right now, I think difficulty is verging on brokenness. In the early part of the game, if you know how the mechanics work, you're going to do fine. But the moment you encounter somebody who's a higher level than you, it really seems like the game is actively working against you more than to be a challenge. But I think it's just really, it's not playing as fairly as it needs to. There are pretty miraculous things that happen. And you'll notice it happening more if you're lower level than your opponent. And if you're at the same level, it just seems to stop all of a sudden. So, and the game is very hard to level up without actually having real money. So I've spent a lot of time with the game just since it came out, and I'm at the point now in story mode where I'm a couple levels below my opponent. And it's basically, at this point, it's a game of playing matches over and over and over and over again until I get lucky and the game doesn't cheese me to death.
You were saying, though, that it's easier to grind out money in the game.
I would say it is easier to grind out money, yeah. I'm actually doing a lot of the earlier missions right now, trying to make sure all of my characters are as max level as they can be. So that part I do appreciate. And there doesn't seem to be any cooldown or anything, so if my characters make it through a match without taking any damage, they've got full health going into the next battle. Interestingly, with a starship, they actually have shields, so if you encounter a match and an enemy blows away your shields, but your HP is still perfect, you can go right into your next match, your shields are completely restored, and you haven't lost any life.
That's great.
So, yeah, I kind of like that aspect. But I actually sent Greg a screenshot of this. I've also already encountered a match, which this has never happened in the hundreds upon hundreds of games I've played in Puzzle Quest. I've already encountered a match in Puzzle Quest where the game thought I had matches I could make that just couldn't happen. There wasn't. If you guys are unfamiliar with Puzzle Quest or Bejeweled or any sort of game like that, I'm not going to mention the King game ripoff. They don't deserve the name recognition. But basically, you need to get 3 stones in a row or more to be able to knock out a row of gems and kind of stack up points against your opponent. But Star Trek Wrath of Gems already had me in a match where it was prompting me to match 2 colors in a row, not 3, and that was the only move I could supposedly make, and I had to hard restart the game. So hopefully that was a one-off, but it just seems like we could probably expect some updates moving forward.
Yep, it's still new, so hopefully that happens.
Still new, yeah, and I guess I should also mention, too, when you first start the game, actually if you want to play original series era, so that's Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, or if you want to play Next Generation era, that's Picard, Riker, Data, those guys. Whichever era you pick, you seemingly are locked into that era until you complete the campaign. I'm guessing that's how it works. I can't prove that because I haven't completed the campaign yet. But it seems like once you pick a campaign, you're stuck in that era until you finish that era. So just choose wisely when you first start the app. Also, the characters right now that you can play as, and I can only speak for the Next Generation side of things, the regular bridge crew. So if you're a Star Trek fan, that's basically anybody who existed on the show post-Season 4. You've got Picard, Riker, Worf, Geordi, Data, Troy, and Crusher, and that's it. All the other characters so far seem to be just completely made-up aliens, and I do wish they would have handled that a little bit differently, but they probably don't want to pay the actor who played, Tomalak, or pay the guy who played Gowron to have their likeness in the game. So if you get other aliens, they're just generic aliens. Actually,
not to put a damper on things, but Tomalak, Andreas Katsoulis, is actually dead.
Oh, well, then his estate maybe doesn't want the rights.
It's true.
I don't know. It's interesting to note that they got the likenesses down for the actors, and they look pretty good in the game, but then when it comes to aliens, they didn't even try to resemble any aliens that had come before. So hopefully in future packs we'll get cards. Like, if I get a Klingon right now, it's kind of like, oh, I've got a Klingon. But I think it'd be a lot more fun if I I got a Klingon card, and it turned out to be, Martok or Galron or Kern or some Klingon we actually know from the series. So, but overall, my early impressions of the game are mostly positive. I definitely think there's some things that need to be worked out. But if you guys have iPhone, it seems to be only on iOS right now. Definitely.
They have it on Android, but the compatibility seems to be very strange. Like, it doesn't work on my Galaxy S3, doesn't work on my Kindle Fire, doesn't work on my Atrix. Allegedly, it works on some device, though.
Well, so maybe that's just more to show that the game probably wasn't as bug tested as it needed to be.
Yeah, hopefully in future releases they'll spread it out to more platforms too. I did get it to work a little bit on BlueStacks on PC, so I'll be trying that, I guess, some more later this evening probably, with the TOS skin.
Okay, and yeah, I guess you can let us know next time too what you think of the TOS skin.
Mm-hmm.
So, alright, well, Jeff, did you have anything you wanted to add before we get to... we should quickly touch on Force Friday. So...
Oh, yes.
Jeff and I both took part in Force Friday. Jeff, I went to a Toys R Us. Where did you go?
I also went to Toys R Us, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah, okay, so you're about to touch on the same thing. So, you can kind of tell me what your experience was, but I went to Toys R Us. I got there probably 45 minutes before it opened. I would say there were probably 60 to 70 people waiting outside. And when we got inside, it seemed like Toys R Us had really only put up a couple of boxes worth of Star Wars stuff. I mean, the aisle was full, but... if you want a Black Series, you better have been in the first 10 people in line, and that was definitely what everybody was gunning for.
The store I was in did not have a single 6-inch Black Series figure.
Wow. Do you think that was employee scalping, or do you think that was just they didn't prepare?
No, I think that was just not being unprepared, and from everything I've seen online, other podcasts, that type of stuff, it sounds like Toys R Us just nationwide dropped the ball. Outside of the big event they did in New York,
yeah, I saw that online.
In the middle of Times Square. Other than that, apparently Walmart was the place to be. From what I'm hearing, they had like cake out for people.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, apparently Walmart had the. I think Walmart must have been the first ones to start buying the 6-inch figures because it seemed like they were the only ones that had a decent amount of them.
I heard similar thing.
I was gonna say I had a similar thing to you. We got there a little after 11. I was within the first 20 people in line. We got inside. There was just nothing. Half the people that were there just turned around and left as soon as they saw it. Basically, essentially everything they wanted wasn't there.
Yeah.
So I've just been spending the last, I guess a few weeks, however long it's been, picking them up where I can find them. Running on eBay, Amazon, that type of sales. And I've been able to find a few. I'm down to everything on the 6-inch Black Series. I still need the First Order Stormtrooper, but other than that, I've been able to find the other 4.
You know what? I had a First Order Stormtrooper in my hand the next day at Target, and I thought about picking it up, and I didn't, but now I kind of wish I did.
Well, so it's the only thing I actually found that night. So after the Toys R Us fiasco, we went to Walmart, and it was more or less picked over because there were people that were there at midnight. There was one lone Chewbacca that no one had bought that was sitting there, and I didn't get it. I came back, I think 2 days later, and it was still sitting on the shelf, so I grabbed it. I don't know why no one wanted that one Chewie, but...
So Chewie's the peg warmer, it seems like.
It seems like it... And I don't know if it's just that one left over or what. I think going forward when the movie comes out, I'm not going to spoilers or anything, but I'm pretty sure something major is going to happen with him and Han Solo.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be one to have long term. So if you can find it, I would say pick it up right now while no one wants it, because I think it's going to get hard to find later.
Yeah, and wasn't it just last year, I think, that Chewbacca debuted in the Black Series from the original trilogy? So maybe people just already have the figure, and that's why it's easy to find right now. Yeah,
and there's really not a big difference between the two figures. A little bit in the coloring, and they kind of fixed. There was an issue with the original where the end of the bowcaster didn't fit on. The gun's in 2 pieces, and they didn't fit together very well. The new one, I actually just put mine together a few minutes ago. New one actually fits on very well, so I was happy to fix that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's more or less the same figure with a different coloring. They aged him a little bit.
So, would you say that Black Series is what you were after on Force Friday then?
Yes, that was the one thing I wanted.
Okay.
And that night, I didn't find any of them outside of Chewbacca. I found them over the past couple weeks. Probably the coolest thing I've seen is what my brother bought. He got the Sphero BB-8.
Yeah.
Retails like $150, but you control it through your phone. But it uses the same technology as the BB-8 in the movie, so it's essentially a gyro with a magnetic head. And as the body moves, the magnet inside must move with it on the gyro. It's the coolest thing ever, just to sit and play with and wonder how they built this thing.
That's great.
Yeah, no, I've seen the thing too. It's pretty cool. It was a hot item when I was at Toys R Us. I actually saw somebody with it in their hands. So,
Yeah.
I guess when I was out on Force Friday, what I was after, which thankfully nobody was interested in, were Masters and Micro Machines. So I actually got pretty much everything I was after. If you guys are interested in seeing more about those, I've actually done reviews of most everything I picked up on that night. I've got General Grievous coming probably tomorrow morning. This is Friday night, September 25th, when we record this. So by the morning of the 26th, the review of Grievous should also be up. But if you're into the Master figures, I think the Star Wars Masters overall, I think have been a better figure than the Marvel Masters that we've received previously. So definitely check out those reviews. You can catch them at youtube.com/user/D21Beast reviews, or just Google search D21Beast Star Wars Masters review, something like that, and you'll find my reviews. But I think they're worth checking out. I think a lot of people are probably going to wish that they didn't overlook them initially, because probably as we get closer to the holiday, I'm sure as parents are buying toys for their younger children, those things are going to be flying off the shelves, and you may not be able to find a Boba Fett or Vader or any of the cooler characters.
Especially at the price point they're at. Like for $10 for most of the figures, like 15 to 20 for the bigger ones. They're good figures.
Yeah.
For what you're paying for them.
Yeah, they definitely put the money into the sculpting. So I think that's great. There's more paint detail on the Masters for Star Wars than we typically see on a Marvel Master figure. So, or even the Transformers or the Jurassic World Masters. I mean, Star Wars definitely seems to be what Hasbro's been waiting for to release. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and move on to our pick of the week then. I'll start with myself. Obviously, I talked about Spider-Man Renew Your Vows. I do think that that's a book worth checking out. But there's another book that Jeff brought my attention to about a month ago called, what was it? Oh, now I'm going to read the name. Is it Five Ronin?
Five Ronin, yes.
Five Ronin. It's a Marvel title that came out in, I think, 2010 or 2011, somewhere around there. But it reimagines 5 popular Marvel characters, Hulk, Wolverine, Deadpool, Punisher, and Psylocke, and places them in a feudal Japan setting. And I think it's a very fresh take on sort of a what-if story if these characters existed during that time period. I've made it through the first 2.5 issues so far, and I'm really enjoying the book quite a bit. I think so far what I've read, the Wolverine issue was sadly the weakest of the 3 that I've been covering. But
that's too bad, especially since he already has the Japan ties.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So maybe it wasn't as fresh to me subconsciously. There's just, I don't want to go into spoilers. The issues, I will note, run about double the length, it seems, of standard comic. So, but definitely check them out. Five Ronin's available on Marvel Unlimited through Marvel.com. I don't know if you can find the back issues in the store anymore. I haven't looked myself, but that's what I want to be my pick of the week, so definitely check that out, guys.
One thing on those, if you can find the back issues, the cover art is gorgeous for those books.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, if you are, I don't know how much you see of those in the trades, but if you are able to, even just look up the cover art online, they are gorgeous.
Yeah, and I don't have the artist in front of me at the moment, sadly, but it's definitely worth checking out. It's very beautiful books on the cover. The interior is pretty good too, but I think they have a separate artist for the cover. So, Greg, what is your pick of the week?
So this didn't actually come out this week, but I just watched it last night. I really enjoyed the Heroes web series. I didn't expect to. Like when I started watching it, I was like, okay, it's going to be about some hero that nobody cares about. But by the end of the 45 minutes or whatever it was, I'm like, man, I really want to know what happened to Phoebe. I want to see and I really hope she shows up in the main show now. It's basically the length of a standard TV episode, and there's a lot of stuff packed in there. Strongly recommended.
Awesome. Jeff, what is your pick of the week?
All right, mine, I'm actually going back to the mobile. Star Wars Uprising finally came out.
I've heard of this, yeah.
RPG they've been teasing for months and months. It's another one where it starts out post Return of the Jedi. So no Jedi to speak of. Luke's not around. There's rumors that the Emperor and Vader are dead, but unconfirmed. You're essentially playing as a smuggler, for lack of a better term. You kind of get into some trouble at the beginning of the game. It's basically Diablo for mobile. I've been playing it on an iPad, so the touch controls have actually been fairly responsive. I have heard if you're playing it on a phone, especially if it's a smaller phone, because it is gestures, there's swipes and taps for your different skills.
Sure.
I have heard it can be a little bit cumbersome. But on an iPad, it's great. My iPhone 6 Plus is big enough I can play on it. It's essentially Diablo with a Star Wars cover on it.
That sort of isometric view, right?
Exactly, yeah. You can spend money on it, but you by no means have to. It's not pay to win. If you have a random draw you can buy currency to get items and that kind of stuff, but you can find that same currency in game, and you get it fairly regularly. So there's honestly no reason, unless you just want a little bit of a head start, to spend any money on it. I did throw $5 at it just because I wanted to support the game, but having a blast with it, love it. Like I said, it is canon, which I was very surprised.
Yeah, that's right.
I doubt we see any of the characters in the game in any of the movies. I'd be very surprised, but just the way they're setting up the universe. I'm also reading Star Wars Aftermath, and they have a very similar feel. Just kind of showing what's the beginning of what's happened in the 30 years.
Okay. Well, I guess on the topic of future of the franchise, I guess we'll say. You talked about the Star Wars game, has me wondering, do we know what kind of content to expect as we get closer to Episode 7 with this mobile game?
Not with the mobile game. I think the biggest movie tie-ins are going to be with Battlefront when it comes out in November.
Okay.
The pre-order bonus is that, so the first shot of the teaser trailer, the speeder bike for going on a desert planet, that's Jakku. You see a crashed X-Wing, a crashed Star Destroyer. There's obviously been some type of large space battle overhead. And the land battle, that's the free downloadable content for pre-orders. So you can actually play that battle before the movie comes out. So that and the novels they're releasing, I think, are going to be the biggest tie-ins between now and December.
Okay, and I guess jumping back real quick to the Star Trek mobile game, I don't know how the licensing works out for the new Abrams universe films. I'm guessing the mobile game won't be able to touch on that at all, but I do find it very interesting that this week, when that Star Trek game gets released, is the same week that IDW Comics kind of comments on the 50th anniversary of Star Trek coming up. So I wonder how that will play into the updates that come for the mobile game. So I definitely think now might be a good time to get started on that, and it'll be probably cool to see how new content rolls forward as we push towards a new movie and towards the 50th anniversary of Star Trek. So,
yeah, I think Marvel Puzzle Quest has actually been really good about cinematic universe integration, so I'd love to see something like that with Wrath of Gems as well.
Yeah, that would be great. So, and again with Star Wars Uprising, I think it'd be great if you get story content maybe that directly relates. It already is, I guess, since it's post Return of the Jedi, but something that more directly ties into Episode 7 as it comes out.
Yeah, and I think what they're doing with it right now is they're essentially just setting up the universe, because the game is set up a good 30 years before the new movie. So unless they're going to release it in chapters, like a lot of like Xbox and PlayStation games have been doing lately, where they'll release a chapter at a time. Unless they do something like that, I don't know how close they'll get to Finn and Rey and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, well, great picks, everybody. That's our show for the week, guys. So, as you can tell, we are doing things a little bit differently. We'll probably have an audio podcast the next few shows at the very least. We'll see what we can do about having video integration again in the future. But if you guys like this format, definitely let us know. Leave a comment below, or you can message us each on Twitter if you'd like to. I'm at D21Beast. Greg's at
Yoshimitsu47.
And Jeff is at
Hints_Jeff.
All right, so we'd love to interact with you guys. That was a big joy for us when we were doing the show previously, and now that we're back, hopefully on some sort of regular schedule, we'll continue to interact with you guys. But definitely let us know what you like about the show as it is right now, what you'd like to see moving forward, and basically about all the topics we've discussed. If you have any thoughts, please feel free to share them with us, both in the comments section and individually on Twitter if you'd like to. We'd love to interact with you guys. And if you have anything that you want us to talk about on a future show, definitely let us know. We'll be glad to touch on that. So thanks for listening in today, guys, and we'll see you next time.